you in boxing, but I do think when you actually come up against a proper, serious boxer, and I suspect that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. may be that person, it could all come crashing down.
Piers, is that you think that your opinion matters.
No, I don't think it's good. I think he train hard, but it's not good fighter.
The point is, I think he's coming into this fight with the right approach, with the right mindset.
Boxing experts predict that Jake Paul will be knocked out by Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in round 5 of their upcoming clash. They believe Chavez Jr.'s experience, power, and ring IQ will overwhelm Jake, ending the fight early. Many view this as Jake's toughest test against a seasoned opponent.
So I've just interviewed your opponent, Julio, very confident, says he's going to knock you out in the 9th round.
Yeah, man, you know, he's a dumbass. And so it's going to be apparent on Saturday when he's the one that gets knocked out.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. didn't hesitate when asked about Jake Paul's skills. He made it clear that despite the younger fighter's dedication to training, the results simply don't impress. According to Julio, boxing is more than working hard in the gym. It's about instincts, rhythm, and real fight experience, qualities Jake has yet to prove at a professional level.
But one thing I've gotten off him during this week is that he's viewing this fight as at least a pathway to some form of redemption. He's not going to get all his fans back. He's not going to redeem himself on the eyes of the fans of his father. But if he can beat Jake Paul and beat him convincingly, maybe don't think quite so much about quitting against Daniel Jacobs or against Fanfara or that terrible performance against Anderson Silva. Like, I think the point is, I think he's coming into this fight with the right approach, with the right mindset. I promise you, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is not just here for a payday. He is not just here to collect a check and to get whitewashed by Jake Paul over 10 rounds. He's coming to win. He may not win. Jake could turn out to be even better than maybe people generally think. But he's coming to win, and I think it's going to be a competitive fight.
Media personality Piers Morgan added his voice to the growing skepticism surrounding Jake Paul's boxing journey. In a direct critique, Morgan emphasized that Jake has yet to face a true professional boxer in his prime. According to Piers, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. represents that long-awaited test. Among the boxing community, there's a growing consensus that Julio Jr. possesses both the technical abilities and ring IQ to overcome Jake Paul convincingly.
Shit, YouTube this, YouTube that, Disney that. This shit is not a joke. I'm knocking out the best of the best, beating all of these people time in and time again. And it's about time that you old heads and all these fucking boxers who think they know about the sport put some respect on my name.
Yeah, but you're not going to get... Look, you're going to make a ton of money. Listen, I think as a businessman, you are brilliant, right? I give you full credit for that. When you took on Mike Tyson as a business enterprise, there's no argument. You absolutely crushed the numbers, crushed the money and everything else. But the idea that you can say on the one hand, I'm a killer, I get in the ring with the best people, and you get in the ring with a guy who's 50, he's literally nearly as old as me.
I'm not talking about Mike Tyson. I'm talking about Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, champions in their sport, Golden Gloves champions, Ryan Borland, Andre August, undefeated fighters. The list goes on and on.
But what great boxer have you been in the ring with?
Former world champion on Saturday, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., son of the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, besides me, of course. Like, I don't know what you guys want to see. I tried to fight Canelo. He ducked out of it. You asked him about that. You said he's going to kill me. So what do you want, Piers? You're laughing when you say, oh, Jake is going to fight Canelo. I think you would kill him. But then you're like, oh, you're not fighting this guy. You're the problem here with this whole situation and criticism of my career. I'm trying to fight the best people, and that's why Chavez is here on Saturday. I want Canelo. I want Anthony Joshua. I want all these people. It's been 5 years in this sport.
But the problem is the only proper boxer you fought was Tommy Fury, and he beat you. And he's not even the best. He's not even the best fighter in his family.
Golden Gloves champion Andre August, Brian Borland as well. Anderson Silva was an undefeated boxer. I mean, you can sit there and make up shit, but you actually don't know your facts. I fought multiple boxers with professional records, and including Mike Tyson himself, who I think is going to be a harder fight than Chavez.
Veteran trainer Robert Garcia has gone on record to say that Chavez Jr. doesn't need to do anything extraordinary to win. Just show up and box. The difference in class, according to Garcia, is enough to dictate the outcome. Chavez Jr.'s experience, combined with natural ability and tactical smarts, makes him a dangerous challenge for anyone lacking proper professional seasoning.
I love
that dude. He's cool as I love that dude.
Okay, if he wins, what does it say?
Nothing.
Chavez is gonna win.
And what does that say if he beats Jake Paul?
Not much, just a good win. A lot of millions of dollars, and then maybe do a rematch, which is bad. Make a lot of money.
Even legendary fighter Manny Pacquiao weighed in on the matchup, and his choice was clear: Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Pacquiao, known for his sharp boxing instincts, sees Chavez Jr. as the superior fighter. For Pacquiao, the difference in real-world boxing experience and pedigree tilts the fight firmly in Julio's favor. His endorsement carries weight, not only because of his Hall of Fame resume, but because Pacquiao knows what it takes to succeed at the elite level.
But yeah. Asking about Jake Paul. Who do you got in the Jake Paul fight?
Jake Paul and Chavez. Julio.
Viva Julio.
Viva Julio!
Julio.
Bro, chat.
Julio's winning.
Oh,
That's Manny's manager. He's putting it out there.
I'll see you Saturday night, Viva Julio.
Insiders in the boxing world report that Julio isn't walking into this fight relying on name recognition or past achievements. Unlike what critics expected, he is approaching the bout with full intensity. He's training hard, staying focused, and treating Jake Paul as a legitimate challenge rather than an easy payday. This mindset shift is crucial, particularly in a sport where underestimation can cost you everything.
But one thing I've gotten off him during this week is that he's viewing this fight as at least a pathway to some form of redemption. He's not going to get all his fans back. He's not going to redeem himself on the eyes of the fans of his father. But if he can beat Jake Paul and beat him convincingly, maybe don't think quite so much about quitting against Daniel Jacobs or against Fanfara or that terrible performance against Anderson Silva. Like, I think the point is, I think he's coming into this fight with the right approach, with the right mindset. I promise you, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is not just here for a payday. He is not just here to collect a check and to get whitewashed by Jake Paul over 10 rounds. He's coming to win. He may not win. Jake could turn out to be even better than maybe people generally think, but he's coming to win, and I think it's going to be a competitive fight.
Veteran boxer Gabe Rosado provided a detailed perspective, underlining how experience is often the defining edge in high-stakes fights. He noted that while Jake has youth and momentum, Julio has seen it all: championship rounds, brutal wars, and the grind of real professional boxing. According to Rosado, the years spent in real battles can't be mimicked or replaced by training camps or exhibition fights.
I really don't know his habits. You know, he has a bad track record on, preparing. But look, man, if Chavez comes in at least 60%, then I think Jake really has a fight, because one thing that Chavez has is experience. He may not have the youth, and the agility that Jake has right now, but he does have the experience. And I think that experience would give Jake a problem.
I completely agree with you. I think this is an excellent fight for Jake Paul. Officially, he is 11-1, but he's really like 2-1 as a boxer.
Yeah.
He's fought Tommy Fury. He fought a couple of no-name cruiserweights. I guess if you want to throw Mike Perry into that list, you can say he's 3-1. But against guys that are traditional boxers, he's a 2-1 fighter.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a legend in his own right, did not hold back when supporting his son. In an assertive and almost prophetic tone, he warned Jake Paul that what's coming is beyond anything he's faced before. To Chavez Sr., this isn't just another event. His belief in his son's ability stems not just from genetics, but from seeing firsthand the sacrifices Julio Jr. has made to rebuild his form and focus.
He knows exactly what to do. Jake Paul just fought against Mike Tyson, who didn't even throw one punch. This is not Mike Tyson. You are going to get your ass whooped.
No hay manera de que le gane Jake Paul.
There is no way Jake Paul can
Esta
beat him.
preparación que hizo Julio, Jake Paul no la sabe, ¿entiendes?
This camp, Jake Paul doesn't know
Va a salir a tirarle chingazos y Jake Paul va a andar corriendo como gallina.
Julio's going to go in throwing some serious punches, and you're going to be running like a chicken without a head.
Many observers are skeptical about the authenticity of this upcoming matchup. Given Jake Paul's track record of facing older, retired athletes and YouTubers, there are growing suspicions that this fight might follow the same scripted pattern. Critics argue that if this is just another media stunt, it won't add any real value to Jake's career. However, if the fight is genuinely competitive, even a slightly out-of-form Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. presents a real challenge. Unlike Jake, Julio has stepped into the ring with elite opponents and has the battle scars to prove it. That alone gives him credibility, even if he's past his prime.
Let's talk about this one here. This Saturday, June 28th, we've got Jake Paul. He's gonna take on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And I don't know if this is a real fight or if it's a fake one, so let's talk about this. All right, let's say this is a real fight, because I don't know, I don't want to sound like a hater, but some of Jake Paul's fights look like they've been staged. So let's say this is a real fight. This is the real deal. Listen, man, Chavez Jr. has never been the greatest boxer out here. He's lacked in discipline, he's lacked in the sport, but nevertheless, he is a credible opponent. Jake Paul, on the other hand, I don't know, Some of the fights look staged. Some of the knockouts look like the guys have been paid. With that being said, the problem child is taking on Chavez Jr. this weekend. Let's take a look at both men's professional record. Yes, I said professional record. Listen, box rec. This is Jake Paul's professional record. Alright, cool. Let's get into it. 11 wins, 7 coming via knockout, and 1 loss. Let's take a look at Jake Paul's actual professional record. So he's fought 3 professional boxers. 1 Tommy Fury, 1 Andre August, and 1 Ryan Berlin.
Oscar de la Hoya, a legend in boxing himself, has voiced strong support for the competitive value of this bout. He sees Chavez Jr. as a major upgrade in terms of opposition for Jake Paul. While Jake has often fought lesser opponents who didn't pose a real threat, De La Hoya believes this match will finally test Jake's limits. He labeled this as Jake's most difficult challenge yet, not just because of Julio's experience, but because of the unpredictability and resilience he still brings to the ring.
I'm really excited because the only reason I got involved with this is because he's fighting a real fighter now. Julio Cesar Chavez went 12 rounds with Canelo. He is an ex-world champion in boxing. So this is a real legit fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm obviously questioning what Chavez Jr. will we see. Will he be in great shape? Will he not be in shape? Will he make weight? Will he do a lot of questions behind it? But ultimately, you have to tell yourself, Jake Paul, congratulations. This is a real first legitimate world champion fighter you're fighting.
Jeff Mayweather offers a more cautious analysis of the fight. He acknowledges that Chavez Jr. once had strong credentials, but he questions how much of that skill remains. Jeff believes the timing favors Jake, not because Jake is more talented, but because Julio is far removed from his best days. He suggests that the fight is more of a calculated move to add a former champion to Jake's resume, rather than a true test of skill. From Jeff's standpoint, this fight might look better on paper than what it delivers in the ring.
Canelo backed out and all that kind of stuff, but is this, another name that just, like I said, gives the detractors more feel for their fighter? Does this help Jake at all?
I don't think it's really going to help him that much. I mean, it will in the sense that he's fought a legitimate fighter that actually was
when he was a
professional fighter and a world champion. But to get him after a 5-year layoff and him being inactive is almost just like fighting Mike Tyson.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the same thing. It's like an older guy past his prime who hasn't fought in a long time. I guess he doesn't have an MMA career behind him, so maybe that's a good thing, but it's a lot of the same thing that people have always complained about.
But I think this is a fight that Jake can win. Mm-hmm. I mean, legitimately win.
Yeah.
The matchup has sparked debate about what matters more in boxing, youth or experience. Jake Paul has the advantage in energy and physical conditioning, but Julio brings timing, accuracy, and sharper technique. Analysts argue that Julio's hand speed, defensive skill, and overall knowledge of ring control are superior to anything Jake has shown so far. The blend of fresh ambition and seasoned technique makes this a compelling clash. Many believe that while Jake might push the pace, it's Julio's ring craft that could be the deciding factor.
How good is Jake Paul's next opponent, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? Can he pull off the upset and beat Jake? Now, Chavez Jr. in his prime was a really solid fighter. 46-0, four-time WBC middleweight champion. This is him against Sergio Martinez, a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter. Hurt him bad with the left hook, dropped him in the 12th round, nearly got the finish, but Martinez did end up winning this fight. And then after losing the title in 2017, this is him versus Canelo in 2017. Solid pressure fighter, good body shots, decent hand speed, but these are pretty much his only highlights in the fight, because he pretty much lost every round 12-0. But still, he did go the distance with Canelo. But then you get to his most recent fight versus Uriah Hall at cruiserweight. He still got some decent body shots, but he looks considerably slower fighting at a heavier weight class. His footwork is a bit plotty, and he's not as fast. Look, Chavez Jr., he's not a bad fighter. He's never been a bad fighter. But what he is very undisciplined and considerably slower and more flat-footed at 39 years old fighting at cruiserweight. The technicality, the experience, it will give him a 25 to 30% chance. But the youth, the size, the speed of Jake, that'll give him more of the edge.
There's no denying the commercial appeal of this fight. Jake Paul is a marketing powerhouse, and Chavez Jr. carries a legacy name that still turns heads. The combination is media gold. This fight brings in traditional boxing fans curious about Chavez's return and younger audiences who follow Jake's online empire. Regardless of who wins, both fighters stand to benefit financially and reputationally. The blend of celebrity status and genuine boxing history ensures strong ticket sales and high viewership numbers.
Let's find a real boxer. This man's an ex-world champion. He's way smaller when he was competing.
Yeah.
He had to come up to my weight. He's the son of a legend. I'm now Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
He's Mexican. It's the best you could do. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, it's brilliant. You can't really do better than that if you're not trying to feed man to the wolves. But you're trying to make it appear so.
But do you reckon it's going to generate numbers?
Good question.
It depends how they market it.
It depends what Chavez comes on.
Yeah.
Because Jake won't be able to push this himself. It depends what Chavez comes on. If Chavez comes on some like, listen, bro,
I'm going to teach you boxing.
I'm going to teach you boxing. Yeah, then it can sell.
That type of energy.
But if he comes on the vibe we know he's on, which is why even his dad don't really mess with him.
Despite criticism over his recent form, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. still deserves respect for what he has achieved. A former WBC middleweight champion, he's fought legitimate contenders and survived high-pressure bouts. His technical ability, endurance, and in-ring intelligence were once among the best in the sport. While he's no longer at his peak, those traits don't disappear overnight. If Julio shows even a glimpse of his old form, he could make things very difficult for Jake. His past experience gives him an edge that no amount of YouTube training can replicate.
So Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who wins? Now this fight should really come down to two things. The youth of Jake versus the experience and technicality of Chavez Jr. Now Jake, he'll probably be the faster guy, carries more power at cruiserweight. I don't think he's got good footwork by any means, but Chavez Jr. does look more plotty at cruiserweight, considering he is a middleweight/super middleweight moving up in weight later in his career. Now, Chavez Jr., I do think he does a lot of things better than Jake. Defensively, his hand positioning is better. His lead left hook is better. His combinations and body shots are a lot more technical. But ultimately, it comes down to can he execute the way he used to? Because if you look at his last fight against Uriah Hall, he didn't throw as much volume as he used to. Like I said, looked a lot heavier on the feet. And this was a 6-round fight, so who knows how his cardio will hold up in a 10-rounder against Jake. But since Chavez Jr. is quite durable, he went 12 with Canelo, went 12 with Sergio Martinez. I do think Jake wins this one by decision, just being the more active guy on the front foot. But for Chavez Jr. having any chance to win, he's got to throw 2 to 3 times more punches than he did in his last couple of fights.
No matter the controversy or mixed opinions, this fight is set to be a massive event. Jake Paul's polarizing persona guarantees attention, and the prospect of him facing a seasoned boxer for once only adds to the excitement. Some fans want to see Jake lose, others want to see him rise, but everyone is watching. That emotional pull, whether it's love or hate, is what drives sales. For all the doubts about the legitimacy of the bout, there's no doubt about its marketability.
Breaking news, Jake Paul is going to be taking on former world champion Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in a fight that I think is going to fool a lot of people. Now, what do I mean by fool a lot of people? What I mean is people are going to, on paper, look at this and be like, oh, Jake Paul gets schooled here, gets schooled here. Chavez Jr. is 39. He was not known as a very disciplined boxer during his prime. That's one of the reasons he had such a heavy decline. He's also a lot smaller than Jake Paul. What I will say about Jake Paul is he is a genius, or his team and management are geniuses at giving him opponents that people on paper look at and be like, oh, Jake Paul's not a real fighter. He won't be able to beat this guy. This is very, 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 very minimal risk for Jake Paul. The only factor that could come into play here is if Chavez Jr. decides he actually wants to show up properly for this fight, conditioned, and use his experience to win. But Jake Paul, for me and his team, have been very, very careful about who they matchmake him against ever since the Tommy Fury fight. You know, ever since here, we haven't seen him in there with someone his own age, his own weight, and his own sort of experience. For me, if Jake Paul wants to be a YouTube boxer still, and he wants to be considered an influencer boxer, matchmaking him against these guys that on paper, oh, this is a big challenge for Jake Paul, in reality not really, is okay. But I think if Jake Paul actually is what he says he wants to be, and he wants to make that step up, man, he's going to have to take risks.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time.